This is Trent Emenecker. Sorry I missed your call. Please leave your name and number. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Please Don't Call Me, the podcast where every episode probably should have been a phone call. I finally convinced my phone call phobic father to chat. No more sending me straight to voicemail, just real conversation. Please join us for laughs, life lessons, and plenty of unexpected moments. So put that phone down and let's get started. All right, welcome to our podcast.
Here we are.
I've always wanted to say that.
I think we should be honest. It took us like an hour just to get set up because we don't know what we're doing yet, but we're going to work on it and get better.
Yeah, we kind of started around 7:40 and it's now 7:35, so it's okay. Technical difficulties, we're figuring it all out.
Yeah, we started at 6:40.
Oh yeah, 6:40 and now 7:40. Anyway, we made it. So the best way to start a first episode of a podcast is probably with introductions. So, and then once we introduce ourselves, we can get a little bit more into why we started the podcast and why we named it what we named it.
Right.
So I'll start by introducing you. You are Trent, and you are my dad.
Yep.
Okay, so you're a dad of 4. I am the oldest. You are also the oldest of 4.
Yeah. I was going to say that you're taking my thunder, but
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. So you're a dad of 4. You have been married for 20, help me out. No, 30 years.
30 years.
30 years. Wow. It's been in the 20s for so long, I just feel like. But yeah, 30
for 10
years.
years it was, yeah.
Which is scary because that means I am inching closer to 30 years. But it's okay. You've been I was thinking about your life and I'm like, you've been a lot of things. When I was a kid, I felt like you were all about basketball and obviously spending time with us kids and like doing different activities like that. And now you're in this different season of life where half of your kids are out of the house and you've kind of branched out a little bit more with the hobbies. You're in a new job. So you taught for 30 plus years, coached basketball for 30 plus years. And now you've moved into business owner, which I'm sure we'll talk about like the differences with that and how that's changed. I'm sure that's just changed a lot for you. And then now you have time for different hobbies because you're not chasing us kids around. You still run a lot, which is impressive. I can personally not relate to the desire to go running every day. I usually am like, how do I avoid running every single day? But yeah, that is you. I think you are known for your sense of humor, your dry wit. I think you're also known for your integrity and your discernment, at least among your kids. Like whenever we talk about you, that's what we talk about. And yeah, as a teacher and as a coach, you've had an impact on a lot of different people. And I think overall, there's a lot of people that really like you and are big fans of you. And I imagine they are going to look forward to hearing what you have to say about so many things on this podcast.
Okay. Well, I'm excited that I don't know what I could say, what wisdom I can share, but I can't wait to talk about stuff. Some silly, some serious. We'll see. But okay, by way of introduction, this is Alexandra Gonzalez. That is a mouthful. When we named her Alexandra, we were like, she's so tiny. How is she going to make that name work? It's so big. Your name was longer than you were. So we've called you Alex and Allie Girl and Al and all sorts of fun things. But Alex is 27, married, living to Ben, living in Athens, Georgia. You teach at a great Christian school in Athens. You got like a combo group, right? 4th and 5th grade?
Yes, 4th and 5th grade, English and science. Their favorite subject and their least favorite subject. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you teach and you do a great job with that. Your school loves you. I know that because they've told me. And you guys, well, Ben works at the University of Georgia as director of
Mhm.
basketball operations for the basketball team. And that's a lot of your time, especially now. We're taping the 1st of November, and now the season, they've played one game. The season has started.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah,
like,
we're in it now.
Mhm. So that's probably your main hobby, but you guys go to church, you lead a small group at your house, um, and you do lots of other things. So you guys hike a lot. That's one of your favorite activities. Camping, which I don't get.
Yeah.
You've never, ever camped. I don't think did we camp once or twice, maybe.
We camped once and I fell out of my chair. I
Mhm.
think JT was born, so I was at least 5. I was like 5 or 6, and I fell out of my camping chair and I got a Barbie Band-Aid. That's all I remember
Nice.
from
That's your
camping.
camping experience. Well, now you
Yes.
do it a lot, so you're making
Yes.
memories with
Now
that.
now I'm a little more experienced and yeah,
And
enjoy it.
travel. You guys are great at travel. You've seen more places than I've probably seen in my life. So that's pretty cool that
Yeah,
you guys do
I
that.
mean, it is kind of weird. I feel like I've traveled more in the last 2 years than I did the first 25 years. But I mean, we didn't travel a lot, but we had a really great place to just be. Like, I didn't feel the need to travel. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm sure we'll talk about the years on the farm, and it's like, why would we want to? We had our own little paradise, and
Right.
we loved it. And but yeah, now I love traveling. I used to like my comfort zone. I still do like my comfort zone, but I do like traveling. Yeah, it's funny because the progressive commercials where the people they try to help people turning into their parents. It's like Dr. Rick, and
Mhm.
those are so funny to me, and I'm like, why are these the funniest commercials to me? And all of a sudden it hit me. It's like, oh, because I am turning into my parents. And in a lot of ways I've thought I was turning into mom and I are very similar, and so in all these ways I think, oh, I'm turning into mom. But in the last maybe like a year, I'm like, oh my word, I'm turning into dad. I followed your footsteps in teaching.
Mhm.
Saw you teach, and you were part of why I wanted to become a teacher because I saw the impact you had. I was like, oh, I want to impact people in that way. I didn't initially plan on being a teacher, and then that's the door that got opened and I went for
Yeah.
it. But we have that in common now. We are both the oldest of 4, 2 boys, 2 girls. We basketball is another common thread that was a huge part of my
Mhm.
childhood and now is a part of my adult life. I've probably I know I haven't been to more basketball games in my life than you have, but probably more than
You're gonna
most
get
of the
there.
population. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a lot. And I love it. It's great. And I think your career as a coach like shaped me and got me ready for like built that love of basketball in me that now it's a really good thing. I love it cuz it's our life.
Yeah.
Um what else do we have in common? Oh, we've started to look more alike, which I know I've always looked more like you, but that picture last time you visited, we took that
Mhm.
picture when we went up to Helen, Georgia, and I was like, "Oh man, we look a lot alike in that." But yeah, so I'm starting to see all these parallels of like, oh my word, I'm turning into dad. I need Dr. Rick. But I consider it a good thing and not a bad thing. But I do not plan on taking up running as a hobby.
No.
I That is where I draw the line.
Okay.
Yeah. So speaking of drawing the line, I want to talk about, I'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to talk about the whole premise behind the podcast.
Mhm.
So I moved out 2 years ago, a little over 2 years, almost 2.5 now, when I got married. And how many times do you think you and I have spoken
Without mom
on
there.
the phone without mom being involved in any way? Like not through mom's phone or without you talking to me while mom is present or like popping in on one of mom's phone calls. How many phone calls do you think we
We
have
could because our
exchanged?
phones record such
That's
things,
true.
but without trying to be melodramatic, I'd say 10.
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
be honest, not for a fact.
Yes. But over 2 years,
10,
that's still a low number because I probably have talked to mom 10,000 times.
8
And we are
trillion times.
right. And I know this is not from a lack of you wanting to communicate with me. There's a darker force at work here, isn't there?
True.
Yes, it is.
Because
So,
well, how many phone calls do you think the average person makes a week?
Oh, a week. Um,
Ball spitball it.
maybe if I had to guess, I'd probably make like 15, between 15 and 20, if you're including like people having to call for work, maybe
Mhm.
too. Is it 15 to 20?
I don't know.
Oh, oh,
I
I
would
thought
think
I
more.
thought you were coming at me with a fact here.
No, I
But
don't know what it is. I would know because I have no idea what the normal person does with their phone. I don't know what
yes.
they do with this. So
So that's where
if
the whole
if it's 30, I'm guessing it's 30. 30
okay.
calls a week. That would be
Mhm.
what, 4 calls a day? 4 times 7 is 28.
Yeah. Mhm.
The average person probably makes 4 calls a day. I probably make 4 a week. And typically they're only for work.
Okay.
Calling insurance companies.
Yes.
It's
And
horrible.
so I know you don't call me because you don't want to talk to me. I know part of it is I talk to mom a million times a week and
I
information
just
gets
get the
assimilated,
information. That's right.
yes, to you. And we are a very close family, even if we don't communicate. Like, even my brothers don't call me that much either,
Hmm.
but we are still very, very close.
Hmm.
Um, so the whole idea of this podcast started from the fact that you have what we call phone call phobia,
I have a
which
legitimate medical condition. Okay, it's not medical. It's called
it
telephono.
might come out eventually. Someday it might be. You
It's
never know.
telephonophobia.
Okay. So
That's what it's called.
telephonophobia is what has kept you from calling me um, as much. And so we have now created this podcast so we can have these conversations that we would normally have on the phone. So,
Right.
in a way, I tricked you into having conversations with me, but we just all we did was we took the phone away and we
Right.
just got out headphones and mics and all of this
Hmm. And we use
to
video,
get around
whether
that.
you may listen to this or watch it later, but we use video, which makes an absolute huge difference in lowering the stress level of the phobia. Talking on the phone is a real it. I know people make fun of me. Why don't they make fun of people who are afraid of heights and all this stuff? This is a legit thing that I have. I have all the symptoms. So just for kicks, I'll tell you what the symptoms. You might have phonophobia if you avoid making calls or having others call you, delay making or answering phone calls. That one's a huge. If somebody says you need to call someone, it takes me forever to work up the energy to make the call. I obsess about what was said during the call, so I overthink when I'm on the phone. I obsess about what's being said after the call. I stress about embarrassing myself. My biggest ones are worrying about bothering the other person. I never know when to call. I don't know if it's do you call before dinner? Do you call after dinner? Should you call them in the morning when they're on the way to work? All of those things make it very difficult. But here are the symptoms. So the way to tell what you have is what I just said. The symptoms: increased heart rate, check. Nausea, check.
Oh boy.
Shaking, check. Sweating, double check. I mean, I can sweat through a shirt talking on the phone. And I
That is
very seldom
crazy.
can sit down when I'm talking on the phone. I'm
I
up
think
walking around.
I think the funniest thing to me is I felt like I believe this is a thing, and I feel like it's been more prevalent in my generation and younger, this generation that's grown up with texting and haven't really had to make phone calls or maybe don't know phone call etiquette. Because I had that, I've kind of gotten over that as I've become an adult. But to hear someone of your generation struggle with this is interesting. So I'm kind of curious, when did this start? Because like, do you like when did this happen? Because I do have insider information, and mom said when you guys were dating, you had very long phone calls, like hour long phone calls. So I know at some point in the past this was not an issue, and now it is. So when did that switch happen? Is what I'm
So
wondering.
I don't remember having it as a kid. It started in college, is what I would guess, because that's when phone calls started to become important. Usually, when
Mm,
somebody called, remember we had house phones up on the wall by the kitchen. It was never for me, so I didn't mind answering it because I knew I'd be asking for somebody else. When phone calls started to be for me and they were important, that's when I started to freak out because when I started to care what people thought, it stresses me out. I worry about what they're thinking. And when I can't see a facial cue, or like if I'm talking to somebody, so I can tell when they're bored, time to change
Mhm.
subject. When you're on the
Yeah.
phone talking with somebody, and it's the fear of the unknown. That's the biggest thing for me. I'm afraid of what that person's going to say. Um, so typically, when I'm the person initiating the call, I've got a mental flow chart that is mapped out every possible angle this conversation could take, any questions
Okay.
they could ask. When I make a call at work, I have all this paper and my both of my screens on my computer is going to have all the information I could possibly need because I hate the dead air and I don't like the indecisiveness of phone calls.
I know you hate the dead air because I'll talk with mom, and
You
mom
guys
and
are
we
great
talk
at
all
it.
the time. And
Mhm.
between topics, we'll let there be a moment of silence. And if you're ever like around or in the car, and then I start talking, you're like, oh, oh, you just weren't
Yeah,
ready for
because
me
I
to
thought you
come
hung
back into the
up. It's been
conversation.
so
Yeah,
long. Yeah.
yeah, you already forgot. Short-term memory loss.
Mhm.
Okay, so where do you draw the line then? Speaking of drawing lines, where do you draw the line? Because you said video makes it better. At what point, like that, you're obviously fine with this.
Yeah, because I can see you.
What about FaceTime? Is FaceTime acceptable?
It's okay. It's just annoying. It's not a phobia. It's annoying.
It's just
I'm
annoyance.
more annoyed. I
Okay.
do not want to become the person I walk past at Walmart who's FaceTiming. They don't even have the phone up by their face. They're just carrying it, swinging it, talking
Yeah.
full blast. I'm I have no problem FaceTiming someone as long as I
Mhm.
have information to convey and something to talk about.
Okay.
FaceTime doesn't bother me at all. It's
Interesting.
it's the phone call that's the
It's
problem.
just the phone and not being able to read facial cues. So
Correct.
it's all in the facial cues.
And not knowing who's in the room and there's too many unknowns. I don't like it.
Okay, so how do you survive as an adult? Because, like I said, I feel like I got over it when I became an adult and had to start making. I don't make a lot of calls as a teacher, but when I do, I don't stress about it. So, like, how do you get around this? Because I know for work you have to make calls, and I mean, you also have a lot of long distance family members. Like your two, myself and Addison have both moved out of the house. Um, your all your extended family on your side of the family lives in other states because I mean you're in Florida and they're just about everywhere else. So like how do you survive as an adult? I'm just
So the normal person has a fear of getting in front of 2,000 people, right?
yeah.
What do you have to do to get ready to do that? You get psyched up. You have a
Mhm.
plan. You're not going to go up there and wing it.
Right.
You get your energy. You're backstage. You're jumping around. You have a plan. It's either a script or 4 songs or a speech. You got everything planned. You go out and do it. And when you're
Mhm.
done, you're exhausted. That's what a phone call is like for me. But I could go, I can go sing 4 songs. I could stand in front of people and make stuff up. They could think I'm funny, think I'm not funny, think I'm inspirational or not inspirational. I don't care. Being in front of people doesn't bother me one bit, whether it's 50 or 1,000. But one
Yeah,
on
cuz
one on the phone,
mhm.
I have to get psyched up for that, just like you would or the average person would, getting on a stage and having to give a speech or something like that. Or I could
Cuz
do that immediately.
yeah, I was going to say I've seen you preach sermons, I've seen you sing in front of hundreds of people, perform in musicals, which we will have to talk about more at some point,
Hmm.
perform in musicals in front of 100 people, and that really doesn't phase you. And just to see you be brought down by phone calls is just very interesting to me that that's
Yeah,
your
that's the
weakness.
thing.
But I do want to know, in your opinion, what, because if people listen to this, they're now going to be very self-conscious about ever calling you.
Hmm.
What, in your opinion, constitutes a phone call? Like, what if your phone's going to ring and you're going to answer it, what do you expect to hear? Like, what level of urgency or what type of information warrants a phone call is
So
what
there's
I want to know.
circles of inclusion.
Okay.
You four, mom, my dad, you guys can call me for anything. Okay.
Okay.
Outside of that circle, you better have a point. If you're in my business world, extended family, don't just call and say, hey, what's up? Because I don't know. I don't know what's up. That's not, you tell me what's up. So you better have some information to convey. Hey, I saw your dad. He's doing great. Oh, that's a great phone call to me. If you're an acquaintance on the way outside, I can't think of a reason why you'd want to call me. I just
That
don't. Why would you call me?
yeah.
I'm
What
not
if
very good at talking on the phone, so I feel like I'm wasting your time.
so what about your birthday? Like what
That's
about
what Facebook is for.
you just want people,
Just
this is you publicly months in advance
yeah,
letting everybody know,
yeah,
don't call, just post on Facebook.
I think so.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Mhm.
So what then is your preferred method of communication for those people, not necessarily just on your birthday, but like, if someone just wants to catch up with you
Mhm.
or see how you're doing, like what is your preferred what should they do?
I think they should pre-text, then call. Hey, I'm going to call you in an hour. I can have all my flow charts out. I can have a mental picture of where this conversation's going. That
Okay.
would be great. If you're an acquaintance,
That's fine. I'm the opposite. If I get a text like, "Hey, I need to call you," my brain goes
well,
to worst case scenario.
not if that's
I'm
bad. Yeah, not
Then I'm thinking
if
about it all day.
if a friend does that, I'll be ready. If you're right, if it's a business or associate or when I was a teacher, if it was a parent, hey, I'm going to call you in 2 hours. Oh, my head would explode going through every scenario of why that person might want to call me. So
Mm.
that's not good. I'd rather get blindsided.
In like a work situation, you'd rather just
Mhm.
get blindsided instead of have to stew over it all day.
Unless I'm making the call, then I have my flow charts.
Interesting. And these are all
Yep.
mental flow charts, like you could just picture them in your head.
Well, yes, but I'll have any information I need, an invoice or a schedule. I mean, I'll have it all out there so that I don't look dumb. I don't ever want to have to say, "Oh, could you give me a minute to look at that?" That's crazy. I don't
So
ever want to do that.
what would your advice be to someone else? Because I'm sure you're not the only one. I am convinced you could possibly be the only one in your generation to struggle with this. But probably not. But I feel like in my generation and younger, I see it more. And so, what is your advice to other people that struggle with this? Do you just want them to resist? Or what coping mechanisms?
You know how I've raised you guys and what my expectations are. Um, with a lot of things, I'd say get over it and use your phone. I just don't want that standard applied to me. But
Right,
I
right.
mean, if one of the if JT
Everybody
or
else
Tyler
needs to do
said,
it.
"Oh, I'm afraid to call them. What should I do?" Pick up your phone and call them. Get it over with. That's my advice. I just don't apply it to myself. Can I give a hot take?
Yes. I
All
would
right.
love I would love to hear your hot take.
So this is going to be an apolitical. We're not going to talk about politics, but I do have a political hot take I want to share with
Okay.
you. So today is the day after. Whoops. Today's a day after a major election. Here's
Mhm.
my hot take. You know how they got all the signs? Like where we run is a polling place, and there are those little yard signs
Yeah.
everywhere. They are everywhere. I mean, 300 of them in a 50-yard, I'm not exaggerating, 300 of them in a 50-yard span. There are so many of them. And then in yards and on street corners, everywhere they can stick it in the ground down here,
Mhm.
they have all of these signs. Here's my hot take. On that sign, whoever it is, whatever politician, they have 24 hours from the moment the polls close. So the polls in Florida close at 7.
Mhm.
So by 7 o'clock the next night, you have them out of the ground. They can't be seen, or you spend 1 day in jail for every sign that is found. What do you think of that? That's a hot take right
Straight to
there.
jail.
I see right to jail. What's that from? What show is that from? Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec.
Right to jail. That's
I
exactly
think
it.
they're Venezuelan and they
Yes,
straight to jail.
you have a sign in your yard with your name on it, right to jail. That's my hot take. I can't stand it because you have to look at them. I mean, when do people start putting them in? The 1st of October? No. Labor Day.
I mean, I think I saw some this summer. I mean, now I feel like I think it's probably just Trump because he's been in the last 3 presidential elections. There are permanent signs up. Like you'll drive by some farm and they've got like a hay bale
Where they've painted
spray
something on
painted.
the, yeah.
Yeah, or like,
The whole year in jail.
Yeah. They get a whole year. So, but
No,
what about those are private citizens, Dad? Like
So
those
they
are
can probably, I have no problem with that. You're right. They can do whatever they want. They can paint their
Well, no, I'm
barnyard.
just saying like candidate can't be responsible.
Absolutely. It's their name. They handed them
Their
out.
name.
They got to go get them right to jail. You see it. If you see it, that's it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to walk my neighborhood and call the cops
You just
for
start
every
picking
sign I see.
them up.
Yeah, just have
Picking
them. So there you go. There's my hot take. To make this full circle, I got 0 robocalls. I wouldn't have answered them anyway, but I didn't get any.
Oh, I didn't get any either.
I think they don't do that anymore. It's all text.
Yeah. How do you feel about like spam calls? Would you ever troll somebody like a spam call?
It depends on the mood, but yeah, I could do that.
I think maybe sometime if you ever get a spam call,
Record it.
and it's a real person,
Mm-hmm.
I think you should go
See
for
how long
it
I could lead them on.
and see, and just come and
I
share
could
your
play
story.
that part. Yeah.
Because that can be intimidating because you are in 100% of control in that situation. Right. So that might be good for you. It's like exposure therapy.
Let me put that on my to-do list.
So moral of the story, don't call and please pick up your signs immediately.
People know this is semi tongue-in-cheek, but I do. I like my whole back sweats in a 5-minute phone call. That's not an exaggeration. So do it, but just know you're hurting me deeply when you do it.
Just know what the impact
consequences are. Yep.
So thank you so much for listening today. This was fun. We survived our first podcast.
That's number 1.
We hope you enjoyed it and we hope you'll continue to listen. We're just really wanting this to just be a fun chance for us to talk, a good bonding experience for us, and just to bring you, if you choose to listen, some just mindless information to just, take your mind off of things, to get you off your phone, and let you just be able to sit back and listen to some useless information, but also possibly some useful information. I think we'll have a little bit of both in there. And yeah,
there might be information, inspiration, innovation. I just made that innovation.
Sounds like
indignation. There could be some indignation going on.
Indignation. Yeah. Yep. We're just gonna, basically see the world through your eyes. All the fun things you come across.
That's right.
Some videos, just different things like that. So,
all right.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're gonna do interviews. Did you say interviews? We're gonna do that.
Oh yeah.
Like people I would never want to call, but I might want to talk to. We're gonna do stuff like that. So
every episode of the show, like we say, probably should have been a phone call. Like this should have been a phone call.
Yeah.
But we're doing a podcast and it's awesome. It's still happening. And yeah, we're going to do some great interviews with people that you probably should call, but we're not going to force you to do that due to your, what's it called? Phonophobia?
Well, telephonophobia.
Telephonophobia.
I shorten it to phonophobia.
Okay. Phonophobia.
Which I can because I have it.
So we're going to make sure you have just some of those conversations that you maybe have been avoiding. And now you don't need to sweat it. You can just, come on here, read their facial cues and have a good conversation. And I am looking forward to just being able to witness that. I think it's going to be great. Awesome. Great. Well, I hope you have a great night and a great rest of your week.
Yeah. And get your signs out of your yards, please. Get your signs out of your yards. Right to jail.
Right to jail.
Right to jail. Oh, and please don't call me.